Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
This meeting of the Sioux Falls Charter Revision Commission will come to order. It is my understanding that we have on the phone Commissioner Ann Hayek.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
All right. So it looks like we have a full attendance today. Before we get to approval of the minutes, it's the chair's prerogative to mention any personal privileges that there might be. So I will just mention two personal privileges today. The first one being that today we honor the 18th anniversary of work for the city of Sioux Falls of Carrie Hansel. So I want to congratulate her on that. And then we are celebrating the 21st birthday of our own Tamara Jorgensen from the city clerk's office. So regardless of what number birthday, happy birthday and happy anniversary. Thank you, ladies, for your service.
Thank you.
And now we'll move to approval of the minutes of our meeting of Wednesday, September 8. You should have received a copy, commissioners, of those minutes in advance of the meeting. Barring any comments or questions on those minutes, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I have one comment or correction or clarification on the minute number item 5. My comment at the last sentence in that open discussion. He also stated he will not be bringing forward his recommendation during an election year. I did go back and listen to exactly what I said, and I can't bring, I mean, we always bring it during an election year. My comment was during a mayoral re-election year where there is a mayor. Just adding the word mayoral election year would be fine with me. So if by common consent, I would ask that change.
I would second that change.
Any objection? Seeing none, any other comments or questions on the minutes? Otherwise, with that one addition, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Zylstra, seconded by Commissioner Deckinga to approve the minutes from our last meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are so approved. We will now move to item 3 on our agenda, discussion of old business. This is the section where we will bring up for our discussion briefly the formal recommendations for revision to the Sioux Falls Charter at the April 2022 election. That is a spreadsheet which is part of the agenda packet for the Charter Revision Commission. It is available publicly, and so far we have 5 items on there. The first proposed August 13 by Mike Zeterik, the second September 8 by Commissioner Ann Hayek, and 3, 4, and 5 by Citizen Scott Arisman, also at the meeting on September 8. I would like to first address something that came up at the last meeting, and I owe this commission and the public a little bit of an apology as a prefatory comment. At the last meeting, you'll find in the minutes under Section 3, New Business, Item B, discussion of the formal recommendation by Mike Zeterik. I asked a series of 8 questions, according to the minutes, for potential research or discussion. I would like to, at this meeting, barring any objection, withdraw 4 of those questions, numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8. The reason being, had I, as I did later that same meeting, simply reviewed Section 6.02 of the Charter, it would have answered all 4 of those questions. The process of setting the commissioner, the number of city council members, the districts, and the redistricting process is all laid forth in that pretty long section. I think, again, without looking in too close a detail, that might be the longest section of the city charter. So with that in mind, again, I think the other 4 questions are ones that would be helpful information as we consider Mr. Zeterik's proposal, but for my part, I would withdraw those 4 questions, barring any objection.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Zylstra?
The one comment I would make on that is, I agree with you, there is a process there, and we will get to Section 6. or whichever section that is, that outlines the redistricting. But my question would be, I do believe, whether we would want to or whether it'd be wise, but I do believe we would have the right to put before the citizens a specific, a charter section that specifies the types of questions you're asking here. We could put in one that would say, has to be so many, so much population. We could draw them, we could put boundaries in, as I understand. They aren't in the charter right now. It just says how many districts there are, and there's a charter, a districting commission that draws the boundaries with the approval, I believe, of the city council. But I would just like to keep open that when we get to that part, we do justice to Mr. Zoteric's proposal and say, well, maybe, is there wisdom in actually drawing the boundaries into the council, put it in the charter, and ask the people whether they wish to approve that or not.
Further comments? And certainly, Commissioner Zylstra, I would agree with you. I don't think that any of these 4 questions that I'm just asking to be withdrawn, not just because I think they're already asked and answered by our charter, but also to save some time and energy that's unnecessary for our city staff. I don't think any of that impacts our consideration of Mr. Zoteric's proposal. So again, I think those can stand withdrawn at this time. So now moving on, I think that the next order of business under old business will be so that we can give the public notice of when each of the current 5 items on our spreadsheet will be brought up for consideration and vote. I would like at this time, again barring any objection, to set as a commission the meeting dates where we will consider and decide each of the pending 5 proposals. All right, so I would propose that we consider and vote on 3, 4, and 5, the proposals by citizen Scott Arisman at our meeting in October. And excuse me, thank you. I'm looking at the wrong dates. At our meeting in November, that looks like November 10, and Commissioner Hayek's proposal, number 2, the same date, again barring any objection. And then the proposal from Mr. Zoteric, which is extensive, and I think there was a lot of good discussion, and we're still looking at some different questions and waiting for some additional information on that. I would propose that be considered and decided at our meeting on December 8. Any objections or discussion? And during the public input portion of this meeting, if Mr. Arisman or Mr. Zoteric has any concerns with that schedule, they're certainly welcome to come forward at that time and let us know. We can always adjust if necessary. Again, so that the public is fully informed and has the opportunity to participate in that process. Anything else that I missed under old business? All right, moving on to new business. The way that we have decided as a commission to consider the different articles of the charter is for those to be split up at the meetings and for us to go through 3 articles of the charter and ask the commissioners whether they have comments, questions, or proposals for amendment to the charter for each of those articles. And for purposes of discussion, we have broken that up and gone through each of the sections of each article individually. So I will go ahead and start that process. Item A under new business is Charter Article 4, Departments, Offices, Agencies. Section 4.01, General Provisions, Creation of Departments, Direction by Mayor. Any comments, questions, or proposed amendments under that section? Seeing none, Section 4.02, Personnel System, Appointments and Promotions, Civil Service System. Mr. Zylstra.
I would just note that this would be the section, I believe, that we could consider the proposal number 5 when we get to that, the one from Mr. Arisman about residency. It looks to me like we could simply suggest adding one sentence to 4.02A that says something to the effect of all officers, directors, and heads of city departments referenced in 401B must be or become within, and we can talk about X number of days of appointment, a resident of the city of Sioux Falls. So that's just to bookmark that as the place where I believe Mr. Arisman's proposal would fit.
I would say that I have that exact note written down here. So I think section 4.01 may make the most sense just because it talks about the actual creation of the departments and the directorships. But regardless, I agree with you that Mr. Arisman's proposal and our overall proposal number 5 on that should go in section, Article 4.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions, or amendments under section 4.02? Seeing none, section 4.03, legal officer. Section 4.04, planning. All right. Before we move on to Article 5, any overarching comments, questions, proposals about Article 4? Seeing none. Article 5, financial procedures. Section 5.01, fiscal year. Section 5.02, submission of budget and budget message. I'll just pause here for a moment. Commissioner Hayek, please feel free at any time if you have anything to let us know.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Section
I'm
5.
watching you too.
Oh, spooky. Section 5.03, budget message. Section 5.04, budget. Section 5.05, city council action on budget.
I do
Noted.
have a question on this one.
Commissioner Deckinga.
Notice of hearings, and I noticed this throughout for a couple of them. The city council shall publish in one or more newspapers of general circulation in the city. Do we need to call out, or do we have any concerns about language barriers, making sure that we're reaching everybody? Not everybody reads the Argus Leader, so if we're just publishing in the Argus, are we actually, I guess, reaching the people we need to? So that's the question I'd like to bring forward.
I will just offer my general comments. In my other life out in Pierre, I have a decent amount of involvement with the state laws regarding newspapers and publication requirements. I can tell you that under state law in South Dakota, and then under this language, that each political subdivision, including the city of Sioux Falls, is required to designate only one official newspaper. And so in this case, in order to comply with those requirements, it's my understanding the city of Sioux Falls has, at least for several decades now, always used the Argus Leader for that purpose. I also can tell you that generally South Dakota state law says that English shall be the official language of the state. The statute's been debated in the last couple of years and amended, but that is the law. However, I'll defer to the city staff if they have any comments on multilingual notices.
The city also, I agree with Commissioner Smith on that. We also have media policies in the city that provide for English, and there would need to be some adjustments made. That being said, the Human Relations Commission exists for the purpose of ensuring that people are able to get the notices and the information that they have. They do have notice, formal notice through the one legal newspaper, again, which has been the Argus for years and years. But if anybody would have any questions about that or concerns about an inability to obtain that information, we would make it available through the Human Relations Commission.
Thanks for your question. I learned something too.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Zalstra.
I did also, I spent a lot of time on reviewing the videos today. And let me just say that I find them very user-friendly, so I think that kudos to the city staff. You can go to the minutes and you just click on it and that part of the video comes up. In our July meeting in 2019, I raised the issue regarding this, and it occurs elsewhere in the charter too, about whether this is outdated. Is that the most common currency of communication within the city? I think an argument could have been made that before they ceased publishing last month, the shopper would have been a way more commonly read than the Argus Leader, at least in print. So at that time, the response, you gave your type of response, but also I found interesting when I look back, our city attorney said the state was looking at this issue and questioning whether they needed to update the language. So that was 2 years ago. Has anything happened? That's my only question.
I don't want to jump in front of Mr. Koister.
I'm just going to speak to push it to you, because you live in the legislature way more than me. So.
I can tell you that as it happens in 2020, during the legislative session, there was a proposal that came forward to amend our state laws that would have allowed publication of legal notices precisely in shopper news. That was pretty strongly defeated by our legislature during the first committee hearing on that bill. So no, that was not passed by state law. It is still currently the law that all legal notices must be published in the physical newspaper. But I will tell you that all newspapers in South Dakota, not only most of them have websites you can go to for that specific newspaper, but they all now publish all of their minutes to a central repository, sdpublicnotices.com, where the public notices from across the state of South Dakota are aggregated in one location. It is a searchable archive where you can copy and paste the text, and it is eminently user-friendly, and that was done in order to have the entire newspaper industry come in, bring this even more so as a public service to the members of the public. So you probably asked for probably more information than you were asking for, but again, it's something that I live and breathe pretty heavily during the legislative session.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as long as there isn't any change at this point in the state law, we could, of course, expand beyond and have something in the charter that went beyond, met the state law and went beyond, but I don't have a proposal at this time.
And it is my understanding, again, kicking it to the city staff briefly, that same information would appear comprehensively on the city website. So somebody wanting to see the notice and hearing, plus a general summary of the budget from the city council and the mayor's budget, that those are also published on the city's website as part and parcel of the whole process of those meetings.
We're just looking at the language, but yes, all notices of meetings get published online, and then you have the links, as was referenced on the user-friendliness of the videos. All that is posted, including agenda packets. Now, that's what we do on a weekly basis. If memory serves, that's what we do with the budget as well. And certainly correct that if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Further comments, questions, proposals on Section 5.05, City Council action on budget? Section 5.06 has been removed as of April 10, 2012. Section 5.07, amendments after adoption. Supplemental appropriations, emergency appropriations, reduction of appropriations transfer, limitation. Section 5.08, lapse of appropriations. Section 5.09, administration of the budget. Section 5.10, overspending of appropriations prohibited. Section 5.11, Capital Program. Section 5.12, City Council Action on Capital Program. Section 5.13, Public Records. Any further comments, questions, proposals overarching on Article 5 of the City Charter? Seeing none. Article 6, Elections. And please note for the public that part of Mr. Zeterich's proposal would amend Section 6.02 of the Charter as it relates to City Council composition and redistricting. Section 6.01, City Elections. Section 6.02, Council Districts and Adjustment of Districts. Section 6.03, Initiative and Referendum. Commissioner Zylstra.
Yes, thank you. I did make this comment last meeting, but I would just underscore again, the powers of initiative and referendum are reserved to the electors of the city. And so while sometimes people have the view that the Charter Revision Commission is a gatekeeper to revising the charter, the charter specifically reserves to the people the right to reserve the charter apart from the city council, apart from the Charter Revision Commission, but it has to follow the process of initiative and referendum. So just an observation.
Further comments, questions on Articles 4, 5, and 6 of the Charter? Seeing none, we will move to item D, other proposals submitted in advance of this meeting. It is my understanding that there were no such proposals submitted to the Commission in advance of this meeting. However, I will open it up to the Commission. If there are other articles or sections of the Charter about which that are not in Articles 4, 5, or 6, about which you have questions, comments, or proposals, you're welcome to bring those forward at this time. Next meeting, we'll be discussing Articles 7, 8, and 9 of the Charter. All right, seeing none, we will move to public input. If there is public input on Articles 4, 5, and 6 of the Charter, on anything that has been discussed during this meeting today, please come forward. Mr. Zeterich, welcome back.
Kind of glad to be here. It's kind of, I like it here better than the main body. But since last week, I did what, I wanted to get more research done, what Ann was talking about last week, as we asked some questions and stuff. And I made copies for you guys too. But I got research in different cities. And what I found out, sorry, sideways. But I looked at, I just went through real fast and pulled 19 different cities, and I kind of found 2 of them, Fargo and Bismarck, are still commission type cities, but 17 of them all have different different populations and the number of districts, and I got a category there for 1 per every 30,000 people or so. And what I found, you get a variety of different variances there. And look, Sioux Falls and Sioux City have, in Scranton, Pennsylvania, have five districts. Well, it seems like the bigger the cities, the bigger the voice the people get. You get the 1 for 50,000, 1 for 70,000 votes. But when it comes to cities like Tulsa and Minneapolis and Denver, there's a quite interesting contrast there as well too. Then you get the smaller cities like Rapid City, Albany, Rockford, Illinois, La Crosse. You got 14, 15 different districts, but you can see they got the people themselves have 1 voice for every 7,000 people. I found that kind of interesting, and I thought that's something you can go something that can be discussed here too. But as far as then let's go down. Of those 19 cities, 17 of them actually have city council districts. The average of those 17 cities, the average city has 9 districts. population is roughly 200,000 people, and the average, and the people have a 1 for every $29,000 vote. 20,000 people. I thought that sounds kind of interesting. And then I kind of broke that down a little bit more of the statistics. For cities of 300 to 700,000 people, you got, the average city is about 460,000. They got 10 districts, and the voice of the people are 1 for every 50,000. And then the second group is kind of where Sioux Falls fits in. That's how, you got 8 districts, and the people have 1 for every 18,000. So it seems like, and I thought the bigger that proportionate vote gets, you get more a liberated, constructed city, and where you got less of the people have 1 for every 10,000 people vote, you get more, those most votes in your small towns, and they're more conservative in the nature. And then, and what I found interesting, I came across Boise, Idaho, they're going through this year alone, their legislature passed a law where cities of 100,000 more have to have a council. I found that to be quite interesting myself. So I just made copies of this for you guys to kind of have, and I thought more research, I think kind of makes my proposal look a little more entertaining there. And then, yeah, I think, thank you for keep moving my proposal forward. I mean, I'm not wishing to make any changes this year because, like I think what Carl said last week, I mean, you don't want to make that big change in an election year. I think this is something we can talk over the next 5 years. And then I went to district commission meeting last week. And I think if you look at this, just one of the maps proposed, if you look at, kind of look how that core intersection of town is either getting smaller or bigger. I found, under my proposal, if you have a north, south, east, west, you can kind of, I think you have a more of a bigger, broad area for core. If you look at that core section of town, if you just have a north, south, east, west, you can actually stretch that core section out a little bit more. Downtown, with more people moving in downtown, you probably have a bigger chance of having the downtown back kind of separate by itself. I just wanted to show that. And then I have one more idea on today's one, on section 5. I got looking, I'm always wanting to educate myself. I thought one line I found out in section 5, I mean, this is just point of discussion. If that last line says the budget, if the council can't come up with a budget, it says that the mayor's proposal becomes the effective budget. What if we had discussion where we just remove that last part of it, and then just for discussion purposes, what would it look like if we extend that budgeting process out 10 days, where the mayor, if there is a difference between the mayor and the council, what if we had let the mayor pick out 10 items what he believes what should be added or removed, submit that to the council, and have the council does the same thing in return. Highlight 10 items they want to add or subtract, and give that to the mayor.
Mr. Derrick, I apologize. Your time has expired. I will let you finish your thought, but just one question from me. The proposal that you have here in red, is this a new proposal that you are bringing forward for consideration by the commission?
No, it's just some, well,
Okay.
I guess just an item of discussion I thought for this meeting, section 5. I mean, you don't have to move it forward if you don't want to. I just thought, just sharing that as relation to my original, like we discussed, if we wanted to create that separation of power, maybe this would kind of go right in hand of that. So
right.
I'm not looking to push it on the new agenda. I just thought it'd be a great, interesting concept. I didn't mean to go over my time, but.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
If you could just make sure that is given to, if you just leave it there, maybe we'll get it after the meeting so that we can consider it afterwards.
Sure.
Before, look at it before our next meeting. Thank you very much. Appreciate your continued research and work on this.
Those stats too.
Thank you very much. Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that you place that proposal at least on the chart for us to look at in the future.
Unless there's any objection, we will receive that new proposal onto our spreadsheet of formal recommendations. It'll become item number 6, and we will review that in working with the city clerk to just to figure out What charter section? It sounds like Article 5, but maybe we'll figure out which specific section. Further public input. All right, seeing none, we will move to open discussion by the members of the commission. Commissioner Zylstra.
As I said, Mr. Chair, I have spent a fair amount of time looking at old videos. So one thing I did was jotted down the time, that length, because I think we had the feeling that the last meeting ran a little long, and it was 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 49 seconds. But that is not the longest in the last couple of years. We went as far as 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 53 seconds. But it was the second longest. So it was a fairly long one. My point is, we do have a concern, I guess, a legitimate concern about city staff, and also that other people use this room afterwards. If we believe a meeting is going to go too long, I would not want to feel rushed in our meetings. I would think the better solution, if possible, would be to go back to our old practice of beginning at 3:30 rather than 4, so that we wouldn't be running into the end of the day for staff. I know that's problematic sometimes for some commissioners, but I would just ask you as chair, if you look at the agenda and think it's going to be a fairly long one, that you exercise the chair's prerogative and ask us, or at least survey to see whether it'd be possible for us to start half an hour earlier. Today is not an issue.
Commissioner Zylstra, do you happen to recollect the meeting that ran 1 hour and 48 minutes that you watched before? Was that one where we
Oh, I did not watch it all, Mr. Chair. Please don't misunderstand me. It was July of 2019.
Do you happen to remember if we started that one early at 3:30?
I don't know.
I seem to remember there was at least one meeting in the last 5, 6 years since I've been on the commission where we started early because we figured it was going to be a long discussion. So is there a desire, given the fact that we're going to have 4 proposals for consideration and vote at the meeting in November, that we start that meeting early? To Commissioner Zylstra's point, it might make sense. Any objection? Commissioner Hayek, will that work for you?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yes, that works for me, but I'm wondering, sometimes we've been criticized because of the public that wants to come also. But the 3:30 is certainly agreeable to me.
And I think it's definitely a concern that we have people who will be in the middle of their workdays. However, to my knowledge, the Charter Revision Commission has been meeting before, or excuse me, in the 4 p.m. time slot, typically on a Wednesday, since long before I was on the commission. That's basically the result of a process of investigation, exploration, of trying to find facilities, city staff, et cetera. So unless there's an objection, I would say it makes sense to start at 3:30 rather than going past 5. Turning to the city staff, is November 10 one of those days where we need to be out of here by 5 for subsequent activities?
I can't speak to the use of the facility. It's just more of a staffing thing than it is the availability of the room.
The 10th, we're okay. It's the planning commission's on the 3rd that meets right after us, so the 10th of November is good.
But, so from a facility point of view, evidently that's fine, but from a staff point of view, it may still be an issue.
Okay. So, seeing no objection, we will hold our meeting on November 10, beginning at 3:30 p.m. If we could just make sure, I don't know if city attorney, city clerk can email Mr. Arisman to let him know. It looks like he has left, just to make sure he knows we're starting at 3:30, not 4. All right. further open discussion from the members of the commission? All right, seeing none, we will turn to the final item on our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. It's been moved by Commissioner Deckinga, seconded by Commissioner Long to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor will please vote aye. We are adjourned.
Aye.